Hey, y'all, it's Johnny C. Cochran, candidate for U.S. Congress, Alabama's 4th District. In this video, I want to talk about the three main things that are compelling my campaign. The first one is inflation. The cost of everything is going up, and it's going up quickly. The blue team is currently blaming Putin, which is laughable. And the red team currently blames the blue team. The truth is, there are three responsible actors: Democrats, the party, the Republican Party, and the Federal Reserve. Okay. We have a system in place that is heavily influenced by one school of economic thought. It's called Keynesian economics. An example of this type of economics would be let's say we wanted to stimulate the economy. A Keynesian would say, hey, we're going to hire 100 people to dig this ditch. And so we pay these 100 people to dig this ditch. And then they're done digging the ditch and they say, what next? And then the Keynesian says, we're going to pay you to fill this ditch back up. Right. So I would argue that that is not true economic activity. What value did they provide by digging the ditch and then filling it back up? I subscribe to a different school of economic thought, which is called Austrian economics. And so because none of our elected leaders and none of the experts at the Federal Reserve subscribe to this school of thought, they keep making the wrong decisions over and over again. So inflation is running hot right now because our politicians and the Federal Reserve decided to spend like drunken sailors and print at the money printer. So you have more dollars in the system now chasing the same amount of goods and services, which market economics would dictate that prices have to go up. So I'm experiencing the same pain that you are at the gas pump, at the grocery store. All kinds of goods and services have gone up in cost. If they haven't gone up in cost, I would argue, look at the size of the packaging, right? Shrinkflation. So, the 16-ounce box of cereal for the same price is now a 12-ounce box of cereal. So they're going to find a way to ding you. And, it really is a shame that there are hardly any voices in Washington, D.C. talking about how to seriously tame inflation. And I think there's a couple things we could do. First is we have to pause federal spending. Even when Republicans are in charge, they never pause or reduce the size of government. They merely reduce the growth. So we need to have a pause. We need to pause spending, and we need to figure out how to not spend more than we take in. It's that simple. We have to stop overspending year over year over year. And at the Federal Reserve side, we cannot be increasing the monetary supply. We just can't. It devalues the dollars. The system we have benefits the super ultra wealthy, those that hold the assets, and regular people, working class people, the most vulnerable among us. It means that our purchasing power is diminished and has a greater impact on our lives. Now, I would be in favor of getting rid of the Federal Reserve System altogether, but I will compromise with you. If you'd like to have an audit first, we can do that. But I don't think the American people and the people of Alabama in particular are going to like the results of what that audit says. So we have to tame inflation. The two old parties and the Federal Reserve are to blame, and they're not offering any sort of real corrective actions. The second reason I'm running for office, the second main animating principle, is that um, I believe the further away power is, the more disconnected those decision makers are to the people they're supposed to serve. So, what am I saying? I'm saying I want to go to Washington, D.C. to restrain Washington, D.C. as much as possible. I want the federal government to operate within the confines of the U.S. Constitution. Anything else needs to get kicked back to the states. Now, there are a great number of libertarian candidates within the state of Alabama that are running at the state and local level. And I believe that their message would be is they want to restrain Montgomery as much as possible. And I would agree with that. I think we want individuals, families, neighborhoods, and local communities to have as much decision-making ability that they can. Because think about it. Is it really economically feasible to all go to Washington, D.C. to protest the federal government? It's not, right? Especially if you have kids. You work all day, you come home, you want to spend time with your kids, you got to take them to extracurricular activities. I try to read to my kids 30 minutes a night. I feel like that's a really important thing that I would suggest to other parents. If you're not reading, please do so. I believe it benefits them greatly. And so, I don't have time to go to DC to protest the government. I don't have time to drive to Montgomery. I might have time to go to a local Tuscaloosa City or Tuscaloosa County meeting. Might. And so I think the federal government has grown too much in size and scope, and we need as much decision-making power kicked down as far as it will go. And my preference would be to individuals, their families, and their local communities. I don't think the future is progressives versus conservatives. I really do believe the future is centralization of power versus decentralization. And we see the CCP in China, that's a very centralized power. And I fear that over time, over the years, the United States government has become a more and more centralized power in Washington, D.C. I want to decentralize that power. I feel like decentralized power is easier to hold to account. And so, if that's the second main reason, I think the third main reason is probably term limits. Congress has an abysmal approval rating. And however abysmal it is, it seems like incumbents always get reelected. I want to give the people of Alabama's 4th District a different option, which is someone with a new voice, new face, new perspective. I think it's going to be different. And we'll do another video that outlines some of those differences between the incumbent and myself. But I don't believe the system we have was meant for people to make a career out of politics. I mean, in some respects, serving your country in this capacity should be a lot like jury duty, in the sense that, you're called upon to do it. And I'm not saying you get a letter in the mail saying you're going to be the congressperson, but it's something that you do for a short period of time, and then you go back to regular life. And I just think it's very interesting that these people get elected for 20, 25, 30, 35 years. They own property around DC, and several of the most wealthiest counties in the country all happen to be ones that surround Washington, DC. It's funny how that works out, right? And so I believe that something that crosses political aisle for voters of any persuasion is I believe that there should be term limits. Now, I'm open to what that would be. Personally, I don't think you should serve more than 20 years. I feel like that's a lot. I feel like you should be capped at 20 years, whether you spend that in the Senate, you spend it in the house, or some mixture thereof. I don't think, these people who cling to power, and then when it's time for them to step away, their children happen just to run for the same seat. And I don't like the idea of, uh, you know, politicians and their families thinking that they own these seats. So, three reasons: inflation, decentralization of power, and term limits. Those are kind of the three main things compelling my campaign. I want to be the most successful candidate in this race. Send me your questions. Johnny C. Cochran 4AL at gmail.com. Go to our website. Looking forward to meeting you all out on the campaign trail. Thank you.